Since the days of the Italians colonizing Eritrea till Ethiopia left in 1991, Eritreans have always fought for freedom in one way or another. In recent times, it has been from Eritreans seeking freedom from their own government, which explains why Eritrea is called the North Korea of Africa. How are they anything like North Korea, you may be thinking? Just chill till the end of this video as we tell the story of average Eritreans, what they endure, and their constant fight against oppression and for freedom. This video reflects the deeply personal stories of Eritreans who have endured oppression and continue to strive for freedom and hope. By focusing on a tale that highlights pivotal events that have shaped their lives, we shed light on complex societal issues they face and the significance of their struggle most people don't know about. Eritrea is a small nation in East Africa, smaller than the state of Oklahoma if you know anything about the geography of the US, bordered by Sudan, Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the Red Sea. This small country with a population of about 3 million gained independence from Italians in 1941. And yeah, Italians aren't all about pizza and pasta. They have an imperialist history too. Its second independence came from neighboring Ethiopia in 1991, who took over shortly after the Italians left. The country has a history marked by hardship and the relentless pursuit of freedom. From Italian colonization to the brutalities of the Eritrean-Ethiopian War, to years of Ethiopian domination and decades of oppressive regime by President Isaias Afwerki, who has been in power since the second independence from Ethiopia in 1991. Under his dictatorship, Eritreans have faced countless challenges which we will soon get to, but have fought tirelessly for survival. Yet, despite these adversities, they have consistently demonstrated an unyielding spirit, fighting tirelessly for survival. An example that jumps out at you is the harrowing experience of forced conscription of Eritreans into the nation's army. Whatever ambition or dreams you have for your life, the government will change your destiny on your behalf. Maybe it's okay to serve your nation for a while, as a lot of countries require from their youth population, but in Eritrea, it's indefinite, and if you refuse, you may just be punished, and your loved ones might get a dose of your misbehavior as well. Faced with an uncertain future, where no dreams are valid, the only option for many is to escape this country where dreams go to die once you fail the birth lottery. Many have taken difficult voyages through deserts and perilous oceans in an attempt to flee this tyrannical society, risking their lives in the process. For perspective, let us walk through a tale of despair, struggle, and hope for freedom of an average Eritrean by reflecting on the story of Eritreans who escaped the country like many others. For easy narration, let's call our average Eritrean Adiam, a 23-year-old who now lives in Ghana after having a hard time in Eritrea with harsh government policies and laws. Watching his parents get imprisoned for challenging the government on issues bordering on fundamental human rights, he decides to leave the land of his forefathers and land of his birth. Truth be told, living in Eritrea is like playing a never-ending game of survival. Except no one's getting voted off the island because, surprise, surprise, no one's allowed to leave. Eritrea has got it all: a history of colonial rule, a hard-won independence, and a government that took the whole absolute power thing and ran with it straight into a wall. How did it all start for Adiam and Eritreans? How did they get to this point? The Italians came, built a few roads and called it a day. And next, British took over, but only until Ethiopia decided to stake a claim. Eritreans weren't too thrilled about that, so they fought a 30-year war for independence, finally breaking free in 1991. And just when they thought they could take a breather, Ethiopia decided to give them a rematch in 1998. Spoiler alert, peace still hasn't made it past the border dispute. Since then, life in Eritrea has been a masterclass in resilience for Adiam and Eritreans. The government, let's just say it has a lot in common with North Korea, minus the flashy parades and nuclear toys. President Isaias Afwerki and his one-party state have a firm grip on everything: the media, free speech, and anyone who dares to think differently. You want to express yourself? Sure, as long as it is in private, with the windows closed, and preferably with no one around. Freedom of speech is a natural human right, but freedom after speech, that is no guarantee. And then there's the military service, which is more of a life sentence than a tour of duty. Fancy a career change? Tough luck, you are enlisted for life. And escaping? Well, imagine trying to leave a fortress surrounded by landmines, with border guards who have orders to shoot first and never ask questions. Even if you do make it out, you are not free from the dangers of deserts, seas, and human traffickers who see you as just another paycheck. Eritreans are nothing short of resilient. Adiam's people endured colonization, war, and dictatorship and still managed to hold on to hope, whether at home or in diaspora, just like Adiam. They keep fighting for a better future even if it feels like the odds are stacked higher than the mountains that surround them. Life there may be tough, but Eritreans are tougher. How difficult is life really in Eritrea, you might be thinking, and how difficult is it to escape the harsh realities of Eritrea? Harsh dictatorship of Isaias Afwerki, and human rights violation and the imprisonment of his parents. Adiam, like many Eritreans courageous enough, took their lives in their hands and took to their heels. Well, we shall refer it more as fleeing and escaping the country than just taking to their heels. They generally find their way to countries within Africa, same way Adiam escaped and his journey led him to Ghana. Picture this narrative. Beginning in the bustling street of Asmara, Eritrea's capital, then leads on to a harrowing journey through one of the most inhospitable terrains on earth. Born and raised in a close-knit journalist activist family, as a young man, Adiam was ambitious and eager to make a difference in his country. But like many of his peers, Adiam's aspirations were abruptly interrupted by harsh realities of Eritrea's compulsory national service. At 18 and 20, Adiam and his sister were conscripted into the national service, a rite of passage that had become synonymous with indefinite servitude and profound hardship. They were sent to a remote military camp, far from the familiar comforts of Asmara. The camp was situated in a desolate part of the country where the landscape was barren and the conditions were unforgiving. For Adiam and his sister, the initial shock of being uprooted from their home was only the beginning of a long ordeal. Life in the camp was grueling. The days were filled with back-breaking labor, military drills, and endless orders, while the nights offered little rest in the cramped and uncomfortable barracks. The scarcity of food and water, coupled with oppressive heat, made each day a struggle for survival. The mental strain was just as severe. Adiam felt the weight of hopelessness as the months turned into years, with no end in sight. The promise of completing their service and returning to a normal life seemed like a distant dream, eroded by the harsh realities of their situation. They witnessed the toll the national service took on those around them. Many of their fellow conscripts succumbed to illness, exhaustion, and despair. Some were so broken by the endless cycle of service that they attempted to escape. Speaking of escape, let's talk about the thrill and not so exciting fleeing of the country. It's like a high-stakes game of hide and seek, except if you are caught, you don't just get to lose the game, you might lose your life, and unlike video games, there are no extra lives to retry this level. The borders are lined with landmines and shoot to kill others because nothing says welcome to Eritrea like a friendly reminder that the grass is not greener on this side. The fear of being caught kept most in line, but not Adiam and his sister. Their spirits refused to be crushed. They knew they couldn't endure this life indefinitely, and thought of spending the best years of their lives in the service was unbearable. They began to entertain thoughts of escape, despite the dangers, just as I am entertaining the thoughts of you subscribing to help the escape of this channel from the small channel concentration camp of YouTube. A bit of hope in the midst of growing a YouTube channel despair is much appreciated. And don't forget to like, share, and comment your thoughts as well. Alright, back to our imaginary Eritrean and his sister. The decision to flee was not one Adiam took lightly, and urged his sister to do the same. Even though she was a bit skeptical and worried about the outcome, she tried to be brave. They knew the risk. Being caught by the authorities could mean imprisonment, torture, or even death. But the alternative, a life spent in bondage, was just as terrifying. Determined to reclaim their future, they began to quietly gather information about potential escape routes. They learned of smugglers who could guide them across the border, but the journey was fraught with danger. The journey wouldn't be an easy one. Besides the treacherous escape option via the seas, the most perilous part of the escape route was the Danakil Desert. It's a very hot and inhospitable desert. Then there's the problem of smugglers. Well, let's just say they are not known for their customer service. But hey, if you survive all that, you might make it to a refugee camp where you can finally enjoy some sense of freedom. After months of planning and saving, Adiam contacted a smuggler known for navigating the treacherous desert. With fear and determination, Adiam and his sister began journey to the Sudanese border, one that would change their lives forever. The trek through the Danakil Desert was as harrowing and horrific as Adiam's sister had feared. The searing heat of the sun was relentless and heavily dehydrated her, and the arid landscape offered no shelter. Each day, they and a small group trod through scorching wind and burning sand. Water was scarce. As days passed, his sister grew weaker as sunken eyes, labored breathing, and racing heartbeat all signaled her decline. Death came like a cold shadow, silently extinguishing her light. Every step forward afterward was one of endurance for Adiam. At night, the desert's cold was as unforgiving as the day's heat. Shivering under the stars, Adiam struggled to sleep, haunted by the thoughts of his sister and the fear of border patrols or wildlife. Exhausted and on the edge, he pressed on, driven by the hope of freedom. After weeks of unimaginable hardship, Adiam and his group finally reached the Sudanese border. Relief and disbelief washed over him. He made it, though his sister had not. When granted refugee status, Adiam felt liberated, free from national service and fear. He worked in Sudan for a few years before making his way to Ghana. In Eritrea's capital, Asmara, a quiet defiance is growing. Long oppressed by a government with an iron grip, the people are beginning to push back despite the risk. Dissent is met with brutal consequences, making every act of resistance an act of profound bravery. The diaspora-based Eritrean Human Rights Assembly (EHRA) is documenting abuses and lobbying international bodies seeking to hold the regime accountable. Inside Eritrea, courageous individuals are risking everything to protest, signaling the first cracks in the regime's control. Efforts to bring change are complex, involving international pressure through sanctions and support for local civil society organizations. Addressing deep-rooted issues like poverty and inequality is seen as crucial for lasting change. Despite overwhelming odds, the resilience and determination of the Eritrean people continue to fuel hope for a future where freedom, justice, and dignity are not just dreams but realities. As the world watches, Eritrea's fight for a brighter tomorrow presses on, much like the Avengers battling a formidable foe. Every act of resistance brings them closer to victory. The government is so obsessed with power that term limits don't exist. The leader's grip is as tight as a miser's hold on a penny, with basic rights as scarce as shade in the heat. And just in case you are still in doubt of why it's not Korea of Africa, let's break down Eritrea. It's pretty simple. They've mastered the art of isolation, just like their friends in Pyongyang. Both countries are under governments that have an iron grip on power, a population scared into submission, and a national narrative that's more fiction than fact. Let's not forget the secret police, the prison camps, the propaganda machine, all working overtime to ensure they remain the hermit kingdom of Africa. Or have you heard of anyone vacationing in Eritrea? Then there's the endless national service, a rite of passage with no exit. Those who dare to flee face a deadly game where the stakes couldn't be higher, but it's not all doom and gloom. Eritreans are resilient. resourceful, and fight for freedom is alive and kicking. I am sure this video may have left you with a bittersweet understanding of Eritrea. If you watched this far, you kind of like this video, isn't it? Please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more edutainment content like this one. Like, share, and comment your thoughts and opinions. Let's have a conversation in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and thanks for your support. And on that note, I'll be catching you on the next one. Cheers, guys.